it just counted down, so I assume that means it's
We're live.
okay. All right. Uh, well, hello and welcome back. I'm Johnny. I'd like to introduce you to Jess, who's here today. Um, Hi, Jess.
Hi, Johnny.
Um, we first met online, which sounds weird, but in a Facebook support group for an ultra rare disease called KDM5C. That her son and all five of our kids have. Um, yeah, no, I guess we'll just go from there. So just as we talked about previously, I like to start with a kind of a struggle and then a strive or thrive or success, kind of recently. So, um, do you have one of each? Hopefully, sorry to put you on the spot. Do you have one of each? Hopefully that you can share.
I do.
All
I
right.
do. So I'll do a quick intro first. So
Yeah.
as Jess, I have one adoptive kiddo from foster care who is diagnosed with KDM5C. I've had him since he's 14 months old, and he just turned 4 this last week. So it's been a journey. Shit, I forgot. What'd you ask me to do? What'd you ask me to talk about?
That's right.
Struggle, strive, and thrive.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So my struggle this week is there's a question of whether or not he has a Chiari malformation. And I've spent some time digging back through all of the testing and medical records. Since I do have access to his birth records, I can
Oh, okay.
see
Cool.
brain MRIs, CT scans, like anything, which he didn't have really anything done since birth, but the birth was unexpected. So,
Oh, okay.
I've been digging back through to see, like, was there any indication that this, was here before and I should have seen, I should have seen something. And the struggle there is, like as we went in recently for a concussion. He was climbing on the back of the couch. He fell, hit the front of his head, resulted in a concussion, had a CT scan done. Neurologist comes back and says, hey, going to be okay. He does have a concussion, but the CT scan also suggested a Chiari-1 malformation. You may want to follow up with an MRI without contrast. And I'm thinking,
Wait, sorry, they did one with contrast, but not one without?
the CT scan.
Oh, sorry. Okay,
They did
CT,
not do
not
the
MRI, not
MRI
MRI.
that
Okay,
time.
got it.
But and I'm thinking, okay, he has to be sedated for those, and he's had like 2 previously. So my struggle is like I constantly have to go back through things and fish to find like what kind of care we need and to kind of put the puzzle pieces together to
Yep.
decide like. And then I thought I reached out to a community, which we may talk about a little bit later. And I said, I know there's been a lot of discussion around this, but
Mhm.
help me out here. Like, what's the severity of this? What should I expect?
Yep.
And I'm just like, this is one, it's time consuming to go through all of these medical records. Two, like, I feel like I'm the expert and
Right.
like as in all, and you probably feel this way too. Like you're the expert on your kids, but when you have a child that's diagnosed with an ultra rare disease, like you
Yeah.
genuinely are the expert.
Are the expert. Yeah.
But I'm thinking like as I'm looking back through probably 4 CT scans in the last 2 years and at least 3 MRIs in the last now 4 years,
Wow, that's a lot, and he's only 4. Wow.
like, why hasn't this been confirmed or, something else
Hmm.
determined? Especially, so when he had his tonsils and adenoids removed, he ended up, I thought he had osteomyelitis or something worse because his head ended up being stuck to the side and he couldn't stand up. So he had developed an infection. Well, that's when he had another MRI that suggested it and he was sedated for it. Why not confirm it at the time
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
he's already sedated? you know? Okay,
Mhm.
all right. So I digress. I'm going down a rabbit hole. That's my struggle. My strive this week is he recently started doing like full-time ABA therapy,
Mhm.
and that has been tremendously helpful with communicating. Um,
Really?
so at his age, trying to figure out communication primarily is him like pulling someone, mostly me, primarily me. I'm his primary caregiver,
Yep.
pulling hands, trying to, even just getting the pointer finger has been a challenge for us. So being able to point at what he wants, um, is a recent win, but we are, striving to use tech more
I was gonna say,
consistently.
does he have like a AAC or even like a flip book type of thing, the lo-fi printed version type thing?
Yes. So he does have, we have both. He is not quite ready for the AAC. He's not, I don't know if it's him or me that's not ready for it,
It's
but
both. I can tell you. I'll tell you more in a minute. It's both.
it's, we have Proloquo on
Yep.
the iPad,
Mhm.
and we use PEX and ABA. His preference right now are PEX. Um,
Oh,
And
really?
so he carries a flip book with him, and then he's got like a set of cards at school that he can flip through. But the strive is just for consistency. It's for to
Right.
continue offering him choices and letting him have like find his voice.
Uh-huh.
And then I would say our thrive this week is this was our first full week back on our regular schedule, which is ironic because next week is our last week back
Bef-
on our full
Before
regular
break. Yeah.
schedule for the
Mhm.
holidays.
Yep.
And he did great this week. Yeah, he's a little bit more tired than usual and finding sleep, but he did great, and he has done a very good job of starting to use his hands to show that he wants to communicate, which in the
Okay.
past has not been. He's not shown any signs, um, any consistent signs of communication. So we're getting now at 4 years old, we're getting more. We're getting
Good.
some all dones.
Uh-huh.
We're getting, clapping because he's proud of himself, or he understands good that this is good, and
Right.
we're working on like some yes and no. So you think at 4 years old, we've
Mm-hmm.
got maybe 3 to 4 things that we're communicating consistently, and
Cool.
that is a huge win for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. We as I think three of our five are boys and can't talk, so they all have AAC devices also. And there's someone at my door right now. And I mean, back to the, you're wondering, is he not ready for the iPad with Proloquo, or is you not ready? And I was like, maybe it's both. I mean, I think I'm getting off track here, but for the kid for the kids, my opinion, I'm not an SLP or anything, but my opinion is they're always ready, right? I mean, the sooner you get that thing in their hands and they can play with it and push buttons and hear the words, that sort of thing, the sooner the better. And we went down, one of our daughters, well, both daughters didn't talk till really late, but one of them didn't talk till really late. And she got an iPad with Proloquo on it when she was, I don't know, 5 or 6, through some grant that her SLP at the time, who was fantastic, signed her up for. And she was about to start, it had to have been 5 or 6, because was just about to start kindergarten. And we're like, well, shit, what do we do? What
Yeah,
do we do?
yeah,
What do
yeah.
we do
What
with
do
a
you
kid
do?
going to kindergarten who can't talk? And we had just gotten this iPad maybe a month or two before. So I'm like trying to figure out how to add I mean, because if someone hasn't seen Pro Code before, it's like it looks, at least it looks overwhelming. There's like,
Very.
the main screen I can't remember how many buttons, but there's a lot of buttons and a lot of words, and there's folders and all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, there's no way she's going to understand this. So I went down the path of creating folders for like school and like, okay, here's school activities like circle time or coloring or whatever, and then I put a button right on the front page of like, hi, my name is Ellie, so she could introduce herself, and then proceeded to drill into her before school started. Okay, this is how you say your name. This is how you say your name. And it wasn't until I'll go through her journey with AAC, because she talks now. But it wasn't until the boys got it that, I was talking with the SLP, which was different because we had moved by then, and some others, and they're like, well, you can do that, but in this case for Proco to go specifically, it's the structure is designed kind of how language flows, or is language English language is structured. So
Okay.
so it was, for us at least that time, they were discouraging bucketizing things and saying, okay, here's this bucket of words, here's that bucket of words.
Yep.
And instead, so we didn't do that. We just left it, the kind of the core words, core vocabulary as is, that the app comes with by default. And let the boys have at it. I mean, we lock it, guided access mode for those who don't know, to keep it in Proco so they're not going to YouTube or whatever, right?
Anything else?
Yeah. Separate. We have separate devices for that. We have the iPad for talking and like the cheap Amazon Fire tablets that they can throw against the wall. That doesn't matter much, right? For YouTube stuff.
I'll say ding, ding, ding. That's a consistency across the board.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And the part of it that was hard for us. I mean, it was hard for them because they're trying to get words. They're frustrated, right? They can't communicate. They're trying to get words out. For us, it was hard because, I call it the nonverbal or non-speaking version of babbling, that like a baby or a small child will do. Just the constant, like, random string of words that they push buttons, and then hit the top of it to make it say like words all the time. And I'll speak of it. Oh, there he is showing his iPad. So it was like, for the longest time, the frustration was we'd hear fish stick, Jesus, synagogue, fish stick, and it was just like, holy cow, Eugene, kind of, right? Because it's one thing when he's doing this at home, but when we're out in public and he's like, fish stick, Jesus, synagogue, and people are like, what is going on over there? But I mean, and in our case, it was three boys doing this at the same time. They weren't all talking about fish sticks and Jesus and synagogues, but they were all three of them like doing this at the same time on their iPads, and April and I were just like, oh my god. So that's that for us. That, aside from the frustration, seeing the kids frustrated and not be able to communicate, that's the hardest part. Was the hardest part, and still is, because they're still exploring. For us to let them go through that kind of AAC babbling phase, if you will, right? To find where the words are, because now, now they can, all three boys, the varying levels of success and complexity, but all three of them can string words together. Eugene's the youngest, and he actually tends to be the best at it, most effective and very specific in what he says. And we should go through we should talk more about AC separately some other time. But I mean,
definitely
just watching him like try and say something. I mean, because he'll go, like I said, there's core words on the front, like on the front screen, like I and go and want and that sort of stuff. But for things or activities or people, all that stuff is folders. There's folders for, right? And all three of them can navigate multiple folders to get to a word. And I mean, in Eugene's case, like I said, he's the best at it. You can sit there and watch him put together a sentence. It may not be grammatically correct.
Right.
It might be want I instead of I want, sort of thing. But I mean, you'll sit there and watch him navigate 3-4 folders deep to find one word to add to this sentence he's building. And it's just like, how the hell do you remember where that is? And it's, I think, right? I mean, he can't tell us, but I think it's just because he had that time where he's allowed to go find, find push buttons, hear the word, and then all three of them, but especially him, they remember. They remember where that button is that says that word.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just like totally amazing. So that's why I say it's hard. The hardest part for one of the hardest parts for you will likely be getting through that babbling phase, because that it is a challenge. I'll tell you.
And keeping the iPad like in working condition during
Yeah.
the babbling phase.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The other advice I'll give you there, and I hope no one from our school district is gonna ever see this, but the AAC devices are in there. All three boys have an IEP, and it's in their IEP as an accommodation to have an iPad,
Mm-hmm.
which is the best thing to do, in my opinion, because whenever it breaks, which happens at least once a school year for us,
Oh.
they repair it or replace it because it's an accommodation in the IEP, right?
Who is who replaces or prepares it?
The school district. They have the the speech and language therapy department. I don't know what they're called, but they have an assistive technology person. Actually,
Okay.
I think a couple people, but we know one of them the most because we tend to work with her the most. But so yeah, whenever there's a problem, like, if the screens, I mean, it's not like the screen's cracked. Okay, replace it. I mean, we let these things get to the point where it's like, okay, now it's not safe to use because there's shards of
Yes.
glass out, right? And they've had them for a number of years, so I've gotten kind of good at working out how to extend the life. So I mean, if there's a crack or whatever, that's okay. But it's the point where it starts to get, like spider web of cracks, then I'll take packing tape and
Okay.
layer it across the screen, right, just to hold it together. And then once inevitably it starts to get to a point in a corner or by the button or whatever, where the glass will start to delaminate from the iPad screen itself, and that's where it's like, okay, CC, we need to do something about this. I mean, and they've had them, I think at least 4 years to the school district now, and like I said, it's pretty consistently at least once a year that they need to get replaced, or repaired or replaced somehow. Which gets expensive, and when you consider three boys doing it, it's super expensive. So
Super expensive. Yes.
yeah, so I if that's an option, I would suggest to get it. When he gets to be old enough to go to school, assuming it's public school. I don't know what's available in the area, but get an IEP, which he'll likely qualify for. Knowing what his diagnosis is, and then get that assistive technology accommodation in there, and save some money.
That's like I just got like 5 knowledge bombs all at one time. So Avery is my 4-year-old. He does have an IEP.
Mm-hmm.
I did my first IEP meeting, and my biggest question was like, where are these goals coming from? How are you assessing my child? How do you determine, like, are these arbitrary things that you're just like pulling out of thin air for him to do? Like, what makes this more important than something else? Like, these are my goals for him. So going through that process for the first time, but I did not know about adding in the AAC device as an accommodation and having them cover it. Like, that's like, that's just a smidge sneak peek into the depths of the things that we have to learn and understand as parents of kids with special needs.
Yep.
Like, it is, and I still consider myself like a novice on this journey, but in some ways I'm an expert. I'm an expert on my human that I'm taking care of and my person that I'm, but I feel so green in all the things to help support and help him thrive outside of the medical field, especially with the school system is scary. And even sending him to school has been scary because he can't
Yes.
talk. He can't tell
Yeah,
me
he can't
about
tell
his
you how the
day.
day went or if someone was mean to him or
Exactly.
which is
Exactly.
scary. That's the scariest one of the scariest parts, right?
I will say that
So
the thing that gave me the biggest comfort this year is I actually went to school and grew up with the people who are running the preschool program that he happens to be in this year. So there's a very high level of trust.
okay.
I was so nervous going into enrollment and we're talking tears nervous because
Right.
you don't until you have a child or you're around someone who does not have the ability to speak, you don't understand how substantial that is.
Hmm.
And I've said this on social media many times and I can't reiterate it enough, but you try to go a day without talking and even
Right.
texting to some degree. Like when you have a child
Yeah.
as young as Avery, or even, our kids have varying levels of, ability, the comprehension ability and developmental delay. So
Yep.
you think about having just the entire world is talking all the time. We have content coming at us all the
Mm.
time. And you don't have that one basic capability of speech.
And it's not even not to interrupt, but it's not even speech. It's communicate. Period.
Period.
Right. I mean, if they. I mean, you mentioned texting, but I mean these kids, especially when they're young, before they get. You mentioned he's got some signs that he's starting to get under his belt and such, but um, I mean, it's not just talking; it's communication. Period. Right. Like I'm hungry. Basic things. I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I guess if they hurt themselves, they cry or something. But then it's like the mystery of like, okay, you're crying, you're hurt. I can tell you're hurt or something's wrong, but where or what or right? It's like
Exactly. Well,
it's
and
it's
I
the
don't know,
mystery all the time.
for your kids, for Avery, he has such a high pain threshold. When he's crying, there's legitimately something going on that is
Yeah,
substantially painful for him because
yeah,
he doesn't cry over much of
yeah.
anything. Now, I will say one of the differences probably that we could acknowledge in our situations is when he came to me, he came from a history of neglect and abuse from foster care. So he didn't really like to be touched,
Mm.
held. He couldn't open his eyes very well.
Oh wow.
At 14 months old, he could not hold his head up. He um totally forgot where I was going with that. Um, he was more like an infant, like
Right.
legitimately an infant at that age. And we didn't know how much of it was due to neglect, abuse, and some of these other environmental and birth family factors versus, what we knew he was failure to thrive. We knew he had developmental delays. The extent of to
Right.
which we didn't know. But yeah, I digressed again. I don't know how we got off on that topic, but
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, and I'll just say that, I mean, because we know a fair number of parents with kids with disabilities or special needs, and they always the common theme is that comes up is invariably over time at some point is like, am I doing enough? Am I doing the right thing? But and my answer tends to be that similar or the same in all cases, and it the same thought came to mind just now when you're talking about where he came from before he came to you, um, and that is that there is no right way to do things or best way to do things, right? You do what the child needs at that time because those needs change. And with regard to am I doing enough or am I doing the right thing? Yeah, because you care about that child. You're taking care of that child,
Absolutely.
and 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 he's adopted, which makes it even more fantastic.
Yeah.
Right? Um, so I don't know where I was going with that. It just came to mind, and it was like, our my criteria for us, is pretty basic in terms of, are we doing the right thing or are we doing enough? And that is, um, and this first one is because we have girls. Um, if no one is bleeding from anywhere new or where they're not supposed to be bleeding from, um, they've eaten something in at least the last 24 to 48 hours,
Yep.
and they're generally content, if not even happy, success.
All around.
Yeah. So, I mean, you just got to look at it in those terms and take it one day at a time, because you never
One
know
day
what
at
the
a
hell is
time.
going to happen. Yeah, exactly.
1 hour and 1 minute at a time
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yep.
I will say this journey has been humbling, but it has also given me the opportunity to slow down in the way that I've needed to slow down and been unable to teach myself how to do. So he's given me the gift of slowing down, to be there, to be present, to try and understand, to try, you know what I mean, to show up in
Okay.
the way that he needs me instead of moving at the pace that I've constantly moved at over the years. Like, this is a completely different experience, and it's been, um, it is, this sums all of this up. It is a struggle, a strive, and a thrive every single day. And sometimes it's overwhelming, and because he's so little, it isn't recognized the amount of effort that goes into it. And then
Right.
now, you guys with 5 children who are affected, there's so many questions we can ask there and get into and think about, but it literally is the journey of a struggle, strive, and a thrive every single day for every
Hmm.
child who is different. And I know they say, like, well, I know we'll get into some of the different diagnoses and symptoms and things and all
Yeah.
of that, but this is, like, just this is not even the tip of the iceberg
Oh,
on
no. Yeah.
what we have to share with the community.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is like, oh, we think there's an iceberg out there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, I see it. I would say
Uh,
almost like Titanic, like, oh, it's there.
yep. But we got plenty of time to turn.
We do, yeah. We do. We
Oh,
do.
God. Well, those were good. I mean, so I mean, I guess to be fair, I should try and come up with a struggle and a strive, thrive, or success. But I mean, so this week for me or us has been tough with Eric in particular. I mean, he's usually, he likes to do his own thing. Tends to not like people to touch him. Like, if you're lucky enough to get a hug, it's like, okay, hug, okay, I'm done. Um, but and that's all fine. We know how he operates and what he likes, and that's all good. But this week, especially in the mornings, it's just been, I've just been like, I can't wait for you to go to school. I hate to say it, but it's like, I can't wait for you to go to school. I mean, it's
We've all
just
had those days.
getting all the kids out the door, with the buses, and I drive one of them to school, but the other 4 take the bus, or 2 different buses, because they're spread across 3 different. We have elementary, middle school, and now high schoolers, so
Wow.
we're across 3 different schools now.
Wow, wow.
Um, but anyway, I mean, just like throwing stuff, and I mean, it's just been like, go to school. I'm dead. Work is a break. You go to school. I mean, I take a break
I
and
am
work,
praying to
right?
get you to school to start the day where I can exhale.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and today's the time that we're here talking to is Sunday, so we obviously got through the week, but man, it was a struggle to get there, especially Thursday and Friday. That's when it like really kicked up for some reason. But on the flip side, as far as our Strive 5 or success, I guess it's a success, but we've had trouble getting one of the kids' medications. It's for impulsivity, like ADHD, those sorts of things. And it's just for the last 3 months, it's been hard to find it. And to the point where I'm calling pharmacies, because pharmacies, it's in such low supply that a pharmacy won't give you more than 1 month. If they have a month supply on hand, they won't give you more than a month at a time. We used to do like 90-day refills, but so I'm calling pharmacies, in like, first it was like 30 minutes drive, from our house out 30 minutes. And then then by this month, it came like an hour in all directions. Okay, who's got 90 of these, or sorry, 60 of these pills, in stock, because he would take two a day for this particular one. And it was just, we couldn't go to our normal CVS inside Target because they haven't had it for the last, right. So working with his developmental pediatrician, which is a whole nother conversation, and the pharmacist. So I ended up talking to the pharmacist at this CVS at Target. Not that he's a doctor and can prescribe things, but he knows us because we've been going there for a long time, and there's 8 people in the household, including my mom. Two of us, her, and the 5 kids. So we're at the pharmacy a lot. So we're just spitballing. What is similar to this that from your experience, Mr. Pharmacist, is like easy to get, right?
Yes.
So he rattled off a couple things, and I went back to the developmental pediatrician and sent her a message to the portal, and she's like, well, we could try this one, where it's 1 dose a day instead of 2 because it's an extended release thing. But because it's extended release, you can't chew it. You have to swallow it whole, like a grown up, right? And we're like, okay, well, I don't know if that's gonna work, because I mean, I'll show a picture. I'll have to find it, and then some of the time I'll show a picture of like our morning routine, which is like pills, applesauce, gummy bears, alcohol pads and syringes, just all sorts of stuff, right? Every day and night, for that matter, too. But it's just like, okay, I don't know if that's going to work. So the past couple days, I've been paying attention when I give him the capsule, which you're supposed to swallow, but you can chew. It's okay if you chew. And the way I've been giving him that, is the applesauce pouches or the pureed food pouches, that have nozzle or whatever it's called. I just nudge inside that little nozzle part, open up, stick in his mouth, and give it a good squeeze, right? I've been paying attention the past few days, and it looks like he just swallows the applesauce. So I'm like, okay, maybe we can
make this work.
Maybe we can make this work. So, anyways, she filled it Friday. We picked it up yesterday, which was after he had already taken the existing medication, which we're as of yesterday, we're down to our last 4 pills, and he takes 2 a day.
Scary.
So we're down to the last 2 days. So this morning was the first time, and he swallowed it. So
that's a success.
Yeah, it is. Now I just need to watch him, and
now you're monitoring.
Yeah, I already sent a note to the school nurse saying, hey, because she has a supply at school, right, to give him in the middle of the day, because in the middle of the day, we can't go there every day, so she has to do it. I'm like, don't give it to him this week, because he's taking this other thing, but hold on to what you have, so that I think she's got another week's worth, because we want to get through this week right before break next week. I'm like, hold on to the 5 you've got, because if things don't go well over break, then we'll switch back, and that way you have something for the first week of school in January. And then another email to his teachers there, just letting them know what's going on, so that, and this is also another discussion, but this is where having a good relationship and trust, like you're talking about with the school and the teacher, comes into play and is so important. Letting them know that, okay, we're trying this on Sunday, which is today, with the goal of kind of watching him during the day just to see how he is, because it's a similar medication, but it's not the same, right?
Right.
And it's in the morning instead of the morning, and then like what we were calling a booster in the afternoon, to kind of carry him through the rest of the day. So, just a heads up, so you can keep an eye on him this week and let us know if, you notice any changes, good or bad, and then we can adjust. And anytime we've had to make changes medication wise, with any of the kids, that's the approach we've taken, right? Because the elementary school and now middle school, because they see them for a good chunk of the day through all the different scenarios that happen at school, whereas at home it's just, not that it's just at home, but for the most part they can do whatever they want, right? And they have their room, their toys, their TV, whatever. At school there isn't any of that, and it's a different routine, right? And while routine is good and they tend to thrive with routine, it's different. And having that relationship where you can say, hey, we're doing this, let us know how it works out for you guys, is beneficial. So yeah, that's our success, I think, for the week. And today is only Sunday, so hopefully there's more.
That's well, I'm curious to see how this next week goes and how he does going into the school week and giving it some time and seeing how things work out.
Yeah.
And I want to call out, this is one child in 5, one medication of one child in 5 children, all on medication, that you are experimenting with something new and hoping that it works. And it is such a big, it's a big deal. It's a big thing. And, for most people, it may seem like something, it can feel diminished sometimes, I think, when you talk to people about these kinds of things. And it's really you get used to it, I think, to some degree. You kind of roll with it. You learn how to roll with it. You learn how to be adaptive. But at the end of the day, it's still a big thing. It's a really big thing in your family, and it can make or break a day. And especially for him, it can make or break his day. So I think that's a really important thing to call out. And I think that, we've talked through, we've introduced diagnoses. We've kind of introduced our families. We've introduced some of the struggles in different capacities, and home life, school life, some of the devices and the medications and procedures and doctors. And we've talked for what, maybe not even an hour, and we have hit on so many different things that make up a significant portion, of our daily lives. However,
but even then, it's just
it's a smidgen.
Tiny piece of it. Yeah, exactly.
It's a smidgen, the level of effort and energy. And I say, I posted something recently on Facebook, and I said, as a special needs parent, keeping your children alive is 24/7. And then I kind of thought to myself, well, most parents probably feel like keeping their children alive is 24/7, but this is a different kind of high alert. It is a different kind of always on. And when you have been through the trauma of nearly losing your child, or seeing your first seizure, or bleeding in ways that your child shouldn't be bleeding, or behaviors,
Your first ambulance ride.
your first ambulance ride with your child, these are traumatic events as a parent. And over time, it affects your mental health, which is another topic that we'll get into. there's so much to unravel, and I'm really hoping, like, I know I have been tremendously excited to talk through these things with you, and I feel like feeling alone,
Hmm.
which is one of the reasons, I think you probably started this as looking at
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
community and support. I've been, it's a renewed sense of joy for what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and how I want to express that, because even though I sit in Tennessee and you guys are in Texas, like, there is a strong sense of community and connection that we've been able to develop just in saying, like, I see you, I hear you, I understand what you're going through.
Yep.
And when you send a text message and you're like, we have a different kind of grace for each other that isn't always understood. Like, there's a guilt that comes with that grace when it comes to work. But when it's a special
Hmm.
needs parent to a special needs parent, it's kind of like, it's a true grace.
Yep. Yep.
And you just get it. Like, you just get it. And that's what that I think we're hoping to cultivate in this struggle bus family community.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it was before we hit record, but like you were saying, I forget what you said, Avery, was like smearing or whatever this morning. Applesauce or
Yogurt.
something. I don't
Yeah.
Yogurt.
Yeah.
Thank you, yogurt. And my comment was like, well, yogurt's better than poop.
Yes. All
So yeah.
always better than poop.
So, um, or the new favorite in our house is giving yourself a nosebleed and painting on the walls with the bullet.
Yeah. Oh,
Whole
that
thing.
sounds great, right?
Yes. Yeah. We've coined it nose art in our house here. Like, oh yeah, where's so and so? He's in his room doing nose art. Like, okay.
Sometimes.
So
Sometimes. We
yeah.
Avery's his recent thing that I think is this is terrible. Oh my God, it's so terrible. And it's not that recent, but it is. When we were still able to go to the playground, bless his heart, it takes him a little while to figure out how to duck when he needs to duck.
Oh
And so he will walk, boom, right into something and hit his head. And then he backs up and he's kind of like, whoa, what was that? And then he walks forward, boom, again. And it'll take like 4 or 5 times. And you're just like, oh, bless him. I'm trying to tell him to duck. Like, stop hitting your head. Stop walking into the wall. Come on now. And
yeah.
then he'll finally get it. And then he'll duck, but then like not enough. And I'm like, you just have to laugh about it because
Yeah.
it's just like, he's okay. This is okay. Like, for other parents, they're like, oh my God, he just like knocked himself. No, no, he didn't. He's fine. He's good.
Yep.
You have to laugh because we deal
Yeah.
with this every day, day in, day out.
Yeah. And I mean, and he'll get through it. I mean, one of ours used to have a padded helmet that he,
Mm-hmm.
in the classroom he was fine, but if he was out of the classroom, like say at recess or whatever, they'd put on because it's like coordination and balance were not in his repertoire yet.
Yep.
And I think it was probably a couple years ago where they changed the teacher at the elementary school. The main teacher had changed in the there's, I don't know if it's a normal or not. I don't know if this is a standard thing, but it's called ICAP, the classroom setting at their end, where it's individualized classroom academic program. I think,
Maybe.
yes, I'm guessing. Small class size, teacher to student ratio is, is small, or student to teacher ratio, I should say, is small. But anyway, so it was a new teacher that came in a couple of years ago, we were used to the other one for like the past 3 or 4 years. So
Yep.
we were panicking, like, oh, this, we really like this one.
What?
We know her, she knows us, right? But and then this new one came in, and she's been great ever since. But anyways, it was like maybe halfway through that first school year that when she had joined, and she's like, you know what, he probably doesn't need this anymore. Because she's, I mean, they all are, but she was coming in with a fresh perspective and kind of seeing where he was on paper, at least at the beginning, and where he is now, and that kind of stuff. So we ditched it, and he's been doing great. However, I think it was maybe it was the week before last. I get a call from her in the middle of the day, and as any parent will tell you, as soon as you see the school come up on the caller ID on your cell phone, you're like, oh shit, like,
Yeah.
right? So anyway, so she calls me and she's like, yeah, he's okay. So then the conversation starts out with, he's okay. I guess they were walking out to recess, and his coordination and balance is, I don't want to say it's fine, but it's a lot better than it was. But he went through a phase where he would walk or even run with his hands in, like he's wearing a hoodie or jacket with his hands in his pockets. Like, no, you don't run. You need to have
No,
your
you
hands.
got to put yourself.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. And then that got better, but and he's pretty good. There's some cases though where it's like you need to look where you're going.
Yeah, that's
And
an issue.
yeah, that was the scenario. So they're going out to recess. He's like turning to look at someone behind him or something, who knows what. And then he turned. He's walking the whole time. He turns around just in time for the some pull, right in the middle of the forehead. So
Oh no.
so she's like, yeah, he's okay, but he's kind of got the cartoon goose egg
Yep.
on his forehead. And the whole, and he was with her because I could hear him in the background like giggling and doing stuff. So she's like, I can text you a picture or whatever, but he's he seems okay. And like I said, we on purpose try and establish and maintain that relationship with
Yep.
all the teachers and staff across all 3 campuses in our case. And I'm like, no, I can hear him in the background. He sounds like his normal self. So, you don't need to send a picture, and
yeah,
I'll just see you guys after school and I come pick him up. And he was fine. I mean, it looked not good. And I don't know if I think I have a picture there. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it though.
While you're pulling up your picture, I'll say it's funny. Like, it's funny. It's not funny.
Yeah.
Those things happen with Avery, and the only, like, the indication for me is he lethargic? Did he lose consciousness?
Mm-hmm.
Is he throwing up? Like, you learn
Yeah.
the symptoms that you need to look for, right? But the nastier it looks, usually the better the situation is sometimes with those. Like, if it looks like a massive bruise, it's probably better than if, you've got a fall and you can't tell that it happened. However,
Right.
when I go in to pick him up for ABA every day now, I'm waiting on them to sign the accident report that something's happened, because in the last week alone, I think we've had 3 where he scratched his nose and his nose was bleeding. He tripped and he fell on a computer charger and his face was bruised, and then he had fallen, I don't know, like something. And I'm like, all right, just give it to me. Let me sign. Like, he's fine. He looks fine. Let's go. Let me sign off on it. Can I give you an electronic signature? Because I don't want to do this every time.
Yep.
Did you find your picture?
I did. I don't know if it's going to show very well, but I'll have to see if I can figure out how to crop it in here later. Let's see how this works. But this is me and him on the sofa after school that day, holding frozen hot dogs on his forehead. So.
Oh, poor fellow.
But yeah, I mean, you just one day at a time.
One day at a time. Well, I think, how are we doing? How are we doing on time? We're good? You need to...
What time is it? It's 10:10 here.
10, 10.
I don't know. I mean, we kind of might be at a natural
Stopping point?
stop point, I dare say. I mean, yeah. I mean, we could keep going probably for another 5 hours, but
oh my God, we sure could.
I don't know if anyone wants that.
Is there any particular way you want to kind of close it out? Like, should we?
I don't know. I mean, and the other 2 was just me by myself, and I was just like, okay, I'll see you next time. So that's really all I've got. I'm not a pro, so
I did
Yeah.
think, tell us what you want to know. And
Yeah.
maybe until next time,
There you go. All right. Well, thank you. See y'all next time.
see y'all next time.